The reason why Ultron's battle protocol should be a permanent mode is because it's great for patch testing. So, if I sound off or weird, it's because I'm sick right now. For one thing, a lot of the base upgrades they can do between the Vanguard upgrades, Duelist upgrades, and Strategist upgrades, as well as entire team upgrades, are good for measuring damage boosts in increments. Also, other interesting changes like Mantis's buffs, creating a slight aura around somebody whenever she inspires or heals someone, is in one of the upgrades they can get, and it's actually pretty great. And it doesn't really seem to change all that much in game. And why I personally think that it might not be that overpowered to actually bring in, it might be a buff. Additionally, I think that at least whenever I used Spider-Man and grabbed him some buffs, he ended up having a lot more web tags. Meanwhile, usually whenever I play him, I struggle to keep all of his ammo together. It's just generally a good way to test out differences. Also, whenever there's a new hero, it's also a good way to test out new team up abilities and other altercations. It's like a testing ground, but because you're not, having individual 15-minute matches, you're having about a 30-minute single quote unquote match that takes place of a bunch of smaller battles that last like roughly 60 seconds. So instead of getting a singular pool of data, you can get a wider pool of data. Oftentimes, the most overpowered elements that happen because of changes in this game are because of what players do in combination. But because you're having one player select a whole team and dish out an entire strategy, you get to automatically tell what's overpowered. And therefore, not only can you use it to sort of like practice and test out certain areas and get ready for patches and all that,
But
the most important part though is that it shows that Namor's nerf wasn't actually a nerf. Like seriously. He's still really powerful. And the main problem was like accuracy and the amount of damage that the squid does. Either heavily buff one of those two elements or they moderately buff both. Instead, I don't know what they even changed. Let me check. Yeah. Okay, so the only thing that I can actually tell that they actually changed in regards to his turrets was that they adjusted monster spawn damage fall to be reduced at greater ranges, which I mean, like, so what? If you're slightly farther away, it's not going to be that damaging, but it's still going to be absolute HE double hockey sticks when you're in closed thing. That's only a situational nerfs. If you're in a map with a bunch of tight corners, then that nerf's not even going to matter. If you're in an open area, well, that's cool, but then you're going to have to grab people who can actually hit it, meaning that a lot of other heroes aren't going to be able to do stuff. Like, seriously, that nerf did nothing. Okay, it did something, but I literally cannot feel any difference, whether while playing him or playing against him. Granted, I'm not an Namor main, and I'm one of the first people to argue that he should be nerfed a bunch of times, so grain of salt and all. It also suggests possible changes to other heroes. So, for example, one of Venom's greatest abilities is that whenever he uses his ultimate, 10% of it is added to his maximum health up to a crazy high max. Now, I personally think that Venom's ultimate is a bit underpowered, especially when you compare them to ults like Hulk's or Penny's or other heroes, because it's an AoE damage. But if that AoE damage led to like not as quite a big of a buff in health inside, but maybe, for example, a 10% buff to a maximum of like say 200 or something, and it resets on your death, that's something that could make Venom's ult a lot more applicable without having to like drastically change the balance. Not only that, but it would also kind of fit with his whole R1 ability to dive in, tank damage, recover, rinse, and repeat. And that basically gives it even more opportunity to think tactically about your stuff. So that could be great. So instead of testing one minor change to one hero every season and waiting about 2 months to see how the community reacts and responds, you get to test almost everything at once. Very big difference. Now, that's all the reason based on the game design element. So I'm going to move on to the players. For the players thing, it could help to have like a consistent alternate mode other than Doom Match. And Doom Match is fun. However, because it's still a team-based shooter, a lot of heroes can't really play solo. So a bunch of strategists aren't useful. I don't think Rocket ever won a single game in that mode. But because this mode is based on a whole team thing, it doesn't have that problem. Every single hero can be useful in one way or another. And I know that there's critiques like the match takes too long because most Marvel Rivals players want things to be 5 minutes. Counterpoint to those guys, most times when you play a Marvel Rivals match, you immediately start matchmaking again, and you end up spending 30 minutes anyway. So there's that. But, that's not really going to convince anybody, and it's just me going, ha ha, lol. So the real, actual, meaningful change that they could do is just have a fast forward option or have a less players, quicker time. In fact, you could even have your own custom lobby where you vote on how much time it takes and other things like that. You want to know what else it can do? On player side, it could have regular rewards without relying on a temporary event or a battle pass. It's a nice sort of break from the other high rush, high octane amount of the game. And already, I mean, just adding a couple of new emotes for different characters, it's already just a pretty good reward. Do I think this is good enough to fix the entirety of the event issue? No. I firmly believe that in order to fix that, you'd have to make a lot of changes. For example, after I filled out the battle pass, if we have a bunch of purple tokens I don't have anything to do with, maybe if there was some conversion rate to maybe use it to feed like a discount on some costumes in the item shop, maybe that would be something that could be used. So no, I think that you have to do other changes to the event-based thing to lead there to be a good balanced middle ground. But is definitely a long step towards, improvement. It would also give a break on developers to not have to constantly come up with new junk to introduce every single season. It would give a break to everybody in the field, and I think that it would lead to more regular players on the game, which in general is what the higher ups in gaming corporations want with online games. The other reason is because it's an alternate mode, it's allowed to have some goofy changes like Venom becoming freaking giant, or Winter Soldier's ability taking out like 75% of people's health. So it gives you more goofy and funny things just to kind of experiment with your characters. It also lets you have a preview of how certain characters could look. And hey, that's another reason right there. If you could use that mode to preview what certain costumes would look on some of your heroes without actually buying it, that is something that would be another good reason for the game. But of course, this all pales in comparison to the final reasons. It's just fun. It's a fun game mode, so I don't see why you need to get rid of it, especially when it's not something wholly situational like the big head mode that we had earlier. All across the board, there is absolutely no reason not to get rid of it. So NetEase, if you're watching this, do it. But who am I kidding? This isn't going to happen because, well, I'm a small channel and word won't get out. Unless you share this hashtag. If you spread this hashtag around and maybe on Twitter and X, I don't know if we'll be able to get it in time so they don't, prevent it from going away, but maybe they'll introduce it as a permanent mode next season, or they'll make it a regularly reoccurring alternate mode. If we spread the word and get these things out, well, this mode can stay, and I can have something to do until I wait until they finally buff Spider-Man after taking away his team up with Venom.
That's right. I was a salty Spider-Man main this whole time.
Alright, end card. So, I haven't been uploading a lot lately. The short reason is that I'm not getting paid for putting a bunch of work into an online application. I'm going to make my own update slash video slash very short documentary trying to convince you why YouTube is a scam, because it is. But it will also go more or less deeper into the reasons of why I'm not uploading lately to any of you who are still around. It will also kind of address this rebranding thing that's happening. So, yeah. PBHD in the comments. I mean it. Don't you dare. Don't you dare insult that person. Come on. Be an adult. Who am I kidding? I'm attracting a bunch of gamers. That's not gonna happen.